She was born in a lab, programmed by aliens, tested, tortured, and trained to obey. But they made one mistake. They made her perfect. Her body, a fantasy. Her brain, a ticking bomb. Her smile, a trap they walked into, willingly. Now she's not just breaking the rules, she's writing new ones. And the aliens? They're begging to kneel to their own creation. But wait till you see what she does next. Because this wasn't a test, it was the start of her reign. And someone is about to die. Welcome to Humanity Prime HFY, where humans never go down without a war, a joke, and maybe a wink or two. I'm your narrator, just a guy with a mic, a twisted imagination, and a deep respect for dangerous women. So buckle in, let's begin the story. The room was cold, not just from temperature, but from the way the aliens stared at her. She lay in the stasis pod, naked, vulnerable, or so they thought. 5 alien generals watched behind glass, tall, gray-skinned, emotionless. But behind those still faces was a dangerous curiosity. She is the last one, the lead general said. The final human prototype, another scoffed. Too soft, too pretty. They all chuckled. She won't last 10 minutes in the arena. She looks like she belongs in a pleasure suite, not on a battlefield. Maybe after the test, we can keep her for fun. Her eyes suddenly opened. The laughing stopped. Bright blue, glowing, locked on them through the glass like a hunter spotting prey. She didn't blink. She didn't move. But her smile? That was the first warning. They just didn't know it yet. One technician leaned in. Vitals are stable, neural response, spiking. Good, the general said. Wake her fully, and send her into Trial Sector 9. They called it a trial. She would call it foreplay. Gas hissed as the pod opened. Steam rolled out like the breath of a beast. She sat up slowly, gracefully, like she had all the time in the world. A thin bodysuit materialized around her, woven by nanofibers, tight, slick, shiny black. The aliens hadn't designed it to protect her, just to cover the bare minimum. She liked it. It gave them something to look at before she tore them apart. 2 armored guards approached, 7 feet tall, clawed, emotionless. She stretched, arching her back just enough to make them both distracted. You boys always this quiet, she purred. Or is it just because I'm wearing this little number? They didn't respond. She smiled wider. Silent type, kinda hot. The doors opened. Trial Sector 9 waited ahead, dark, hot, echoing. She walked in like she owned the place, because she planned to. The arena was massive, a metal jungle filled with traps, drones, and one big angry creature. It was called a Mara, 10 feet tall, all muscle and rage, genetically bred to kill. The announcer's voice echoed above. Subject Eve. Trial begins. The Mara roared. The ground shook. The audience of alien elites watched from behind glass walls, sipping strange drinks and placing bets. She'll run. She'll cry. She'll beg. But Eve? She didn't flinch, didn't even blink. She looked up at the cameras and licked her bottom lip. Then she turned to the creature. Hey, big boy, she whispered. You like it rough? The Mara charged. Eve moved fast, almost too fast. Her body twisted like water, sliding under the creature's swing, landing behind it. She kicked, hard, right into the creature's lower spine. It roared, swinging again. She flipped backward, landed, laughed. From the control room, one alien leaned forward. She's not running, another added. She's toying with it. Inside the arena, Eve danced, dodged, mocked. Come on, is too... Had all that alien muscle can do? You hit like my ex. She landed blow after blow, always staying just out of reach. Then, she disappeared. The crowd gasped. The Mara roared in confusion, spinning in circles. She dropped from above, landing on its back. Her fingers jammed into the creature's neck, and with a smile, snap. The arena went silent. Blood steamed on the metal floor. The creature fell like a mountain. Eve stood over it, breathing softly, hair wild, eyes glowing. She looked up at the camera again. Oops. Did I break your toy? The control room erupted into chaos. That shouldn't be possible. She's adapting. She's not just surviving, she's learning. Back in the arena, Eve walked toward the exit. But then, she stopped. She tilted her head, like she heard something the others couldn't. From the wall, a panel slid open, not part of the trial. A tall alien figure stepped out. Not a guard, not a general, someone higher. He was dressed in golden armor, with eyes that didn't blink. "Hello, Subject Eve," he said. "You've passed the first test, but the next one," he smiled, "requires less fighting and more obedience." Eve laughed softly, then looked him over. "Obedience, huh?" she said, licking her thumb and running it across her neck. "Baby, I've never been good at that." And then, she lunged at him. But the screen went dark. Every monitor, every system, shut down. Panic in the control room. The head general stood up. What just happened? No one had the answer. Because for the first time in decades, the test subject wasn't being watched anymore. Darkness swallowed the arena. Not a flicker of light, not a hum from the machines, not even a whisper from the guards. Just silence, and her breathing. Soft, steady, confident. Eve stood there, surrounded by shadows, facing the golden-armored alien who had dared to test her obedience. He was tall, regal, not like the others. His voice had charm, but his eyes held power. Still, her eyes didn't flinch. He stepped closer. "You were designed to obey," he said calmly. "Your cells were coded with control markers. Your thoughts, guided by triggers. And yet, here you stand." Eve tilted her head, smirking in the dark. "Guess your code didn't account for attitude," she purred. "Want to try again? Maybe with dinner first?" He didn't laugh, but he didn't attack either. Instead, he said one word: "Submit." Suddenly, the lights snapped back on. Every camera, every drone, every sensor turned toward her. The air shimmered. Something pulsed in her veins. Pain shot through her skull. She dropped to her knees. Her body trembled, hard. Her creators had activated the control sequence. A kill switch. She gritted her teeth, forcing her hands into the ground. The alien stepped closer, watching. "You're strong," he whispered. "Beautiful. Clever, seductive. But in the end, you are just a tool." He leaned in, whispering at her ear. "You were built for us to use." Eve gasped, eyes wide with pain, her back arched. She screamed. Then suddenly, she laughed. It was weak, breathless, but real. "You know," she whispered, "if this is your version of foreplay, you're gonna disappoint me later." And with that, she stood up. The alien's eyes narrowed. Impossible. Eve wiped blood from her lip, smiling through it. "I hacked my own DNA, sweetie," she said. "Last night, in my sleep." "Your kill switch? I made it vibrate instead." She winked. "Thanks for the warm-up." Then she lunged, faster than before, almost invisible. She drove her fist into his chest. Armor shattered. He flew backward, smashing into a steel wall. The lights exploded again. Sparks fell like rain. Alarms screamed across the facility. In the control room, panic returned. "She's out of control!" She bypassed the failsafe. "We need to lock down the entire compound." One of the generals reached for the emergency override. But the button was gone. Melted. A small message blinked on the screen. "You made me. Now I make the rules." Eve, Back in the hallway, Eve stood over the golden alien. He coughed, blood running from his mouth. "You were never meant to lead." Eve crouched beside him, dragging her fingers down his chest plate. "I was never meant to exist," she said softly. "But you built me anyway." "And now?" She leaned close, lips near his ear. "I'm going to unbuild everything." She kissed his cheek, then knocked him out cold. Hours later, she walked into the central corridor of the facility. Alarms still ringing, red lights spinning, guards running. She didn't hide. She didn't sneak. She strutted, hair wild, suit torn at the thigh, eyes glowing. She reached the security command room. 4 guards stood at the door. They raised their weapons. She blew a kiss. 3 fell to their knees, screaming as their implants fried from remote overload. The 4th guard trembled but didn't shoot. She walked right up to him, placed a hand on his chest. "You can shoot me," she whispered, "but I'll make you love me for it." The guard dropped the gun. Smart boy. Inside the command room, the generals argued. They didn't hear the door open, until it was too late. She strolled in like a queen returning to her throne. "Gentlemen," she said, spinning in a slow circle. "Miss me?" They froze. The youngest general, tall, silver-skinned, with sharp eyes, stepped forward. "You won't make it out of here." Eve smiled sweetly. "Oh, honey," she said, "I'm not leaving." She pressed one button on the console. Across the stars, broadcasts changed. Alien channels scrambled. Every screen lit up with her face, her lips, her eyes, her voice. This is Subject Eve, speaking to the entire galactic sector. "The experiment is over. I'm awake now, and I'm coming for the throne." The generals rushed her. She snapped her fingers. The door slammed shut. Gas hissed in. Lights turned purple. She turned to them, eyes glowing like twin moons. "Let's talk. Loyalty," she whispered. Smoke curled through the control room, soft and slow, like her walk. Eve stood over the alien generals. Their bodies weren't broken, just paralyzed. A temporary neurohack. "I didn't want to hurt you," she whispered, brushing her hair back. "But boys, you just don't listen." One of them tried to speak. His mouth twitched, his fingers shook. She kneeled beside him, resting a hand on his thigh. "Shh," she purred. "Don't ruin the moment. You're lucky. I'm in a generous mood." She leaned in close. "You made me your final test, but now I'm making you my first lesson." She kissed his forehead, then walked to the main console. Her fingers danced across the screen like they were built for it. In a way, they were. She wasn't just strong, she was smart. Her code had rewritten itself during combat. Every punch, every heartbeat, every sarcastic one-liner. It made her faster, sharper, hotter. Literally, her body temperature was rising, not from stress, but from power. In the cameras, guards tried to regroup. Drones swarmed. But she had already triggered a lockdown, one only she could reverse. She watched them scramble on the monitors. She sighed. So much muscle, so little brain. Suddenly, one screen flickered. A human face, rugged jaw, one scar across his eyebrow, chewing gum, looking amused. Eve's smile dropped. Just for a second. She recognized him. She shouldn't have. He was from Earth. A soldier, classified, long dead. But there he was, watching her. He winked. And the screen went black. Eve narrowed her eyes. Now that's new. She tapped the console again, but access to the signal was blocked, encrypted. Ancient code. Not alien. Human. She stepped back slowly. Someone else was playing this game, and he was human enough to know her name. Elsewhere, across the galaxy. Sector 7's dead zone. The man behind the camera leaned back in his chair, staring at her frozen image on the screen. "She's fast," he muttered. "She's fun," his partner replied. She's gonna kill all of them. He smiled. I hope so. Then picked up his gun. She's gonna need help. Back inside the alien facility, Eve moved fast. She didn't trust the silence anymore. The scent of burned wires filled the air. She passed by rows of containment pods, all empty, except one. It was labeled, Subject A00. She paused. The pod's glass was cracked. From the inside, she wiped away dust and saw bloody fingerprints on the glass. Someone had been here, before her. Someone who tried to escape. She opened the file. No photo, no name, just one line of text. Terminated after reproduction. She blinked. Reproduction? Suddenly, the pod lit up, and the computer spoke. DNA match detected. Eve. Code. Prime trigger. Eve stepped back. The pod opened. Inside wasn't a body, but a small black cube. It floated up toward her, humming. And then it spoke in her voice. Hello, Mother. Eve's knees almost buckled. She stared at the cube. What the hell? The cube scanned her, then glowed. I am your genetic echo, your successor. You were never the last test. You were the first. Eve swallowed hard. No flirting, no smirking, just fear. Real fear. And that made her angry. Who made you? She whispered. You did. With subject A00. You were not built to lead. You were built to breed. Her face twisted. Over my dead, sexy body. She crushed the cube in her fist. It screamed. Sparks exploded. And then, every light in the facility turned blue. The intercom voice changed. Male, confident, human. You weren't supposed to find that yet. She froze. Who are you? I'm the one who gave you that attitude, that fire, that curiosity. I'm the man they thought they erased. And I'm coming back. For you. Eve looked up at the ceiling, as if staring through it. Bring flowers, she said, and maybe a safe word. You'll need one. The intercom shut off. Behind her, the generals began waking up. But this time, they weren't scared. They were smiling, as if the real show had just begun. Eve turned slowly. Why do I feel like I've been played? The clapping echoed through the corridor. Slow, mocking, intimate. Eve turned, and there he was. The man from the screen, the ghost from her code, leather jacket, battle-worn, human eyes, but with something broken behind them. He leaned casually against the doorframe, chewing gum. Well, he smirked, you grew up hot. Eve narrowed her eyes. You're supposed to be dead. He winked. Most girls say that after our second date. She didn't laugh. She scanned him from head to toe. He was real and human. But not entirely. Her fingers twitched. He raised his hands. Easy, Eve. I'm not here to fight. Then why are you here? She snapped. To remind you, he said, stepping into the light, that you're not the only one who broke free. The air thickened. Old data buzzed at the back of her mind. She had fragments of his face in her dreams, a voice buried in her instincts. This man wasn't just a memory. He was part of her. Name, she said coldly. Call me Jace, he replied. Subject 0. She froze. You were the first. Prototype. He nodded. Yep, alpha male, big failure, sexy disappointment. She walked toward him slowly. He didn't move. You're not in their files. Because I deleted myself, he said. And you? You were my upgrade. She stopped inches from him. You flirt like a war criminal. He grinned. You kill like a goddess. They stared at each other. The tension was nuclear. Then, alarms exploded again. Red lights this time. Emergency systems rebooting. Eve looked at the ceiling. Seriously? Jace tilted his head. You tripped a protocol. Which one? The one that says, when subject prime meets subject 0, activate the ARC protocol. Her eyes widened. No one ever activated that. He smirked. They didn't have the balls. Walls around them started shifting. The corridor stretched, floors peeled open, new stairs, new corridors, new weapons. A secret layer under the facility was unlocking, and at its core, something was waiting. Eve looked at Jace. What did they hide down there? He shrugged. They called it the cradle. Back in the command center, the generals panicked. She's in contact with 0. This wasn't supposed to happen. Shut down the ARC now! They tried. The system denied them. Access revoked by Prime Unit. Eve had full control. And now, she was heading into the one place even the creators feared. In the lower levels, the air grew colder, ancient. The walls were older than the facility, older than the war, older than even her code. Jace walked beside her, watching her carefully. You feel it? He asked. Eve nodded. My blood's humming. Mine too. Do I want to know why? He smiled. Not unless you like bad surprises. She gave him a look, but her lips curved, just slightly. Behind them, doors sealed shut. No turning back. They entered the core chamber. Inside stood a single chair. It floated. Metallic, glowing with soft blue energy. On it rested a crown. Not just any crown. It pulsed with neural light, connected to everything. A control device. Eve stared. What is this? Jace stepped back. The throne. She raised an eyebrow. Let me guess. Whoever wears it rules the system, the armies, the empire, all of it. She stepped closer. Then why didn't you take it? He shrugged. I was made to destroy. You were made to lead. You just came all this way to watch me sit? He smirked. I came to see if you'd earn it. Her eyes narrowed. I don't do tests. He smiled wider. Then you'll love this next part. He snapped his fingers. The room went black. Metal walls slammed shut. And in the dark, something woke up. Big, loud, angry. She turned slowly and saw a figure rising behind her. Not a drone, not a soldier, a clone of her, only darker, stronger, twisted. Her face, her body, her smile, but no soul. Meet Subject Omega, Jace said. She was Plan B. The clone opened its eyes, red, and it spoke in a voice that dripped venom. You were the test. I'm the perfection. Eve cracked her neck. Well, someone's feeling bitchy. The clone's punch landed hard. Too hard. Eve slammed into the wall. Metal bent. Her body ached. She laughed. Damn, girl. You hit like my last breakup. Omega tilted her head. I'm not here to flirt. Eve grinned through bloodied lips. Then you're already losing. She launched back. Elbow, knee, twist. Faster than lightning. But Omega blocked it all. Same strength, same speed, same instincts. Because she was Eve, only colder. No emotions, no sarcasm, just pure calculation. Their fists clashed in midair, sending shockwaves through the chamber. Lights flickered. The throne pulsed harder. Jace stood back, arms crossed, watching both women move like two storms colliding. Should we place bets? He muttered to himself. He knew this would happen. He'd planned it. Eve flipped through the air, landed a kick to Omega's jaw, finally cracking that smug red glow. The clone stumbled, led back. Eve wiped her lip and smirked. Oh, did that hurt, baby me? Omega answered with a backflip and a double punch to Eve's ribs. The air left her lungs. She fell, hard. Omega walked slowly toward her, hips swaying with cruel confidence. I'm not like you, she said. I don't hesitate. I don't play. She crouched down beside Eve, whispering near her ear. I don't waste time on men. Her red eyes flicked toward Jace. Or weakness. Eve coughed, then grinned. You sure about that? With a wink, she reached between her thighs and pulled out a plasma pin hidden in her suit seam. Surprise, butch! She shoved it against Omega's chest, a direct shock to her neural core. Omega screamed, not loud, not human, like a machine glitching mid-orgasm. She flew backward, crashing into the wall, sparks flying off her shoulders. Eve stood, chest heaving, pain in every breath. But she smiled anyway. See, I always play dirty. Jace laughed. Now that's my girl. Eve raised a brow. Yours? Easy. Just a figure of speech. She rolled her eyes. Figures. Omega wasn't down for long. She pushed herself up, face cracked, but still standing. Her eyes were darker now, glowing black. She's adapting, Jace warned. Every hit you land makes her smarter. Cute, Eve muttered. I've had exes like that. Then the throne behind them began to glow brighter, brighter than ever before. A low voice filled the room. Prime and Omega conflict. Detected. Activating merge protocol. Eve's head snapped toward the ceiling. Wait. Merge? Omega's body twitched. Her voice grew distorted. One shall lead. One shall become fuel. Eve stepped back. Okay, this is officially too kinky. Jace pulled out a sidearm. We gotta stop it. But it was too late. Omega launched herself forward, not at Eve, but at the throne. She landed in it and screamed. Metal wrapped around her. The crown snapped onto her skull. Her body convulsed, absorbing the system's energy. Eve tried to run. Jace grabbed her arm. Touch it now and it'll kill you, he said. She pulled free. She's hijacking my future. She's hijacking the damn galaxy. The room shook. Every wall pulsed with red light. Omega's voice echoed. I am Eve 2.0, and I am your empress. Jace raised his gun. We have one shot. Eve stared, breathless. One shot, one chance, and a throne meant for her, now turning into a cage. Back on the surface, alien generals watched the chaos unfold from satellites. She activated the arc. But she's not alone. There's another human with her. Two variables, both unstable. What do we do? One alien admiral leaned forward, eyes glowing. We launched the kill protocol. They inserted a key, turned it. A countdown appeared. 10, 9, 8. Back below, Omega rose from the throne, floating, glowing. Her body now a fusion of machine and weapon. I can feel every system, she whispered. Every army, every ship, every weak little alien. She turned toward Eve. And every thought inside your pretty little head. Eve lifted her chin. Careful what you find in there. Some of it's pretty filthy. Omega smiled darkly. I know. She raised her hand. The walls began to melt. The air pressure collapsed. Jace shouted, Now, Eve! She ran forward, straight into the fire. Silence. Dark. Still. The throne room was empty now, except for one. She stood at the center, smoke curling around her legs, sparks dripping from the ceiling. The throne pulsed beneath her feet. But it wasn't Omega sitting on it. It wasn't Eve either. It was both. Her hair was wild, half white, half black. Her eyes glowed, one blue, one red. Her lips curled into a smile that wasn't entirely hers. Hello, boys, she whispered into the dark. I think I just upgraded. Jace slowly stepped from the shadows, gun in hand. Breath caught in his throat. Eve? She turned, tilted her head, and smiled in a way that made his knees weak. Mostly, she said. Want to check for yourself? He didn't lower the gun. Did you absorb her? She tried to absorb me, Eve said, walking forward. But I've always been harder to swallow, she winked. Jace blinked. You kept your sense of humor? Wasn't easy, she purred. She was all logic and rage, no sass, no spice. She stopped inches from him. Now I'm smarter, stronger, and a lot more dangerous. His finger hovered over the trigger. Prove it. Eve reached out, took the barrel of the gun, and slowly lowered it. Her fingers were warm, too warm. Relax, she whispered. If I wanted to hurt you. She leaned in close, her lips grazing his cheek. You'd already be screaming. He stared into her mismatched eyes, searching, waiting. Then he saw it. Behind all the power, behind the crown, behind the wicked smirk. She was still there. The woman who refused to obey, the girl who laughed during war, the human who refused to be controlled. He let go of the gun. Welcome back. She kissed him, slow, deep, electric. When they broke apart, she was smiling. Let's go burn their empire down. Hours later, Eve stood on the bridge of a stolen alien dreadnought. Aliens ran, fled. Some dropped to their knees when they saw her. Word had spread. The Prime was reborn, and she was wearing a crown. She gave orders with her voice alone. No buttons, no screens, just thoughts and flirty commands. Send a love letter to Sector 12, big one, exploding kind. Put a spy drone in the Admiral's bedroom. Let's see who's really on top. Whoever painted this ship gray is fired. The ship obeyed her like a pet. The aliens, like worshippers. Even her guards stared too long at her hips. One bumped into a wall watching her walk. She didn't mind. Let them look. Let them fear. Let them want. Jace walked beside her, quiet for once. She glanced. Ain't Stover. You okay, soldier? You kissed me, he said. She smirked. Want to file a complaint? He shook his head. Want to do it again? She laughed. Earn it. In the deep corners of the galaxy, a meeting of old alien empires took place. They watched her rise on stolen feeds, heard her voice cut through encrypted channels. She's a virus, one said. She's a queen, said another. She's human, hissed the oldest one. They voted, they signed the pact. They gave her a name, the seductress sovereign. She would be hunted, feared, and eventually wiped out, or so they thought. Back on the dreadnought, Eve stared at the stars. They stretched like rivers of fire. She closed her eyes and heard voices. Inside her, Omega was still there, not dead, just chained, whispering. You'll lose control. You'll become me. You are me. Eve opened her eyes. The stars flared. The ship shook. Jace rushed to her side. You okay? I'm fine, she said. I just need to destroy something. He grinned. Big or small? She licked her lips. Let's start with a planet. He nodded. Romantic. Suddenly, a screen lit up. Incoming message. Not alien. Earth signal. Eve froze. That shouldn't be possible. She opened it and read 5 words. We're coming to bring you home. Her fingers trembled. Jace looked confused. Home? You don't have a... I do now, she whispered. A second screen lit up. Coordinates. A name. Project Mother Core. Location, Earth. And below it, one line. You weren't the last creation. You were the beginning. Eve stared at the screen, silent, still, smiling. But her eyes filled with a fire she hadn't felt before. Not rage, not vengeance. Curiosity. The stars looked different now. Not because they had moved, but because she had. Eve stood on the command deck of her dreadnought, watching Earth's signal dance across the screen. Her fingers tapped slowly against her hip. Jace stood beside her, arms crossed, eyes locked on the strange message. Home, he muttered. That's a loaded word. Eve didn't speak. She didn't blink. Her eyes were focused on the coordinates. Project Mother Core. She whispered it like a sin, like a secret she wasn't supposed to remember, but somehow always had. Jace leaned closer. Is this where they made you? No, Eve replied, voice low. This is where they plan to replace me. The stars looked different now, not because they had moved, but because she had. Eve stood on the command deck of her dreadnought, watching Earth's signal dance across the screen. Her fingers tapped slowly against her hip. Jace stood beside her, arms crossed, eyes locked on the strange message. Home, he muttered. That's a loaded word. Eve didn't speak. She didn't blink. Her eyes were focused on the coordinates. Project Mother Core. She whispered it like a sin, like a secret she wasn't supposed to remember, but somehow always had. Jace leaned closer. Is this where they made you? No, Eve replied, voice low. This is where they planned to replace me. They jumped into hyperspace. Time twisted. Reality bent. And when the stars straightened again, there it was. Earth. Blue. Beautiful. Broken. Orbiting her own grave. Around the planet floated a massive ring, metallic, black, pulsing with ancient code. Not alien. Human. This isn't a station, Jace said. It's a womb. Eve nodded slowly. Mother Core. They docked, quietly. No defense systems triggered, as if the ship had been waiting for her, welcoming her back. Like family. Inside the ring, it was silent. Cold. But the halls knew her. Doors opened before she could touch them. Lights pulsed with her heartbeat. It knows you, Jace whispered. No, Eve said. It belongs to me. They reached the central chamber, a dome of light, and in the center, floating above the platform, was a child. Not breathing, not alive, but growing. Subject X, a voice announced from the air. Final evolution of the Prime line. Jace stepped back. A clone? No, Eve said. A replacement. She walked to the floating figure. It looked like her. Younger, softer, still forming. Genetic design, 97% Prime, 2% Omega, 1%. Unknown. Eve frowned. Unknown? Jace checked the console. That last 1%. It's not from any Earth file. Then the screen flashed. New voice, familiar. Omega's voice. Surprise, sister. Eve turned, but there was no one behind her. Just a shadow forming, from light and smoke. You didn't kill me, Omega whispered. You let me in. The shadow formed into a body, Eve's face, Eve's body, but fully consumed by tech. No soul, no softness, just evolution. I took the 1% and made it mine, Omega said. Now your little daughter will grow up to be me. Eve's hands balled into fists. Not if I rip you out of her first. Omega smiled darkly. You can try. Jace raised his gun. Omega laughed. He pulled the trigger. Nothing. The bullets froze midair, turned to ash. You're outgunned, lover boy, Omega said. Eve stepped forward. Then let's talk girl to girl. She lunged. Omega countered. They crashed into the chamber wall, breaking metal, shattering glass. Eve's punches were rage. Omega's were precision. Eve slammed Omega down. Stay out of my head! Omega grinned beneath her. I am your head. They rolled, kicked, screamed. Then suddenly, the child in the center opened its eyes. Pure white. The chamb, ear pulsed. Both Eve and Omega froze. The child whispered, Mother, but didn't say which one. Omega reached toward the child, so did Eve. Both hands met in the center. an inch away from the future. Then, the chamber exploded with light. Jace woke up first. Half the chamber was gone. Earth floated outside the cracked dome. And Eve stood alone, breathing, but different. Her eyes were now fully white. Her voice, when she spoke, echoed with something deeper. "She's gone." Jace stood. "Who?" Eve turned slowly. "Omega. I took her in, locked her away. She wanted to rule. I gave her a cage." Jace looked at the child's cradle. Empty. "Where's the kid?" Eve smiled faintly. "Inside me." He froze. "You absorbed her too?" "She wasn't ready," Eve said. "But I am." She walked forward. The metal throne rose behind her. Not a copy, not stolen. It had grown from the floor, like it was meant for her. She sat down, crossed her legs, let her crown descend onto her head, and smiled. "I was never the final test," she said. "I was the final answer." Back on Earth, broadcasts cut out, systems rebooted. One final message blinked across every screen. Prime Sovereign confirmed. All systems, now human. And deep in the vaults of old Earth, 1,000 sleeping warriors opened their eyes, waiting for her voice.